Welcome, welcome everybody. Greg Peterson coming to you from Goodness Grows Organics in Asheville, North Carolina, and Urban Farm U, the organization that Janice, Ray, Jordan, Don, a bunch of us run cooperatively together. I still own it, but I got a lot of good team members. And I am here with Ray Jess. Hello, Ray.
Good evening.
Tell us where you're coming in from, sir.
I am from North Glendale, Arizona, suburb of Phoenix.
Perfect. And that, what you're seeing in the background of his, um,
My wicking beds.
are his wicking beds, which, if you listen to the Urban Farm podcast about 2 weeks ago, it's an episode with Ray talking about how to build your own wicking beds. So go and listen to that. All right, we are going to jump in. Maybe we're going to jump in. There it is. Tell me you can see my screen, Sir Ray.
You have it.
All right, very good. So tonight we're talking drip tape. This is our favorite way to water your garden. And I'm Farmer Greg, and we're here with Ray. So we're just going to jump right in. What is drip tape? First of all, we're going to say what it is not. It is not drip irrigation. And Ray, you asked me a question earlier. You said, why can't it be called drip irrigation? What did we decide?
Oh, we decided that the pressurization is one of the big differences. Drip tape will pressurize the entire length, whereas drip irrigation will get more pressure at the beginning than at the end.
Yeah, exactly. So with drip tape, we get the same water throughout the entire system, which is amazing. So drip tape is a lay flat commercial watering system that I was introduced to by Scott Murray about a decade and a half ago. And when he introduced me to it, was something that farms used. And what we've done at the Urban Farm is we have downsized drip tape so that it works in your backyard gardens. I'm getting ready to set it up here on my garden beds, and they're 4 by 8 feet. So, you can use them on systems that small. It's a precision watering system. It drops water exactly where you need it. And we love to say it is perfect for home gardens. The value of drip tape, as Ray said, it pressurizes evenly for equal watering. The holes in it often, there's two different kinds, and we've carried both kinds. One has a laser cut and one has a little emitter on it. And what happens with those is that when the water starts up, any salts that build up flush out. The spaces are either 8 or 12 inches apart, so they're evenly spaced for very precise watering. It's super easy to install and repair. We're going to talk about that tonight. It conserves water with better results than drip irrigation or sprinklers. It helps reduce weed growth by keeping the water where you want it. And the cool thing is it installs up to 600 linear feet for even pressure. So I've got an interesting question mark for Tom needs a password. I don't have that for you, Tom. I'm sorry. But he's in the chat box, so he's got to be in it. All right. Limitations of drip tape. You want to speak to that, Ray?
Yeah, because normally it has to be in a straight line. It doesn't go around corners very well because as it pressurizes, it straightens out itself.
Mm-hmm.
One of the challenges is unless you bury it under your mulch, it's available for potential to be chewed by oh, I don't know, varmints and dogs and whatever you can think of.
Yeah.
And, as far as maintenance goes or repair, super easy to take care of, much, much easier than any other watering system that I know of.
Yeah, there's not much to do with it. And as you're going to see here in a minute, um, it's super simple to install as well. All right, the install process. You want to run through this real quick, Ray?
Oh, yeah. First off, you have to have your water supply, whether it's from your hose bib or your timer, your watering system that you have. Then you have to have your timer, your valve. Absolute must, you have to have the 10 psi reducer, because if you don't, you can blow the drip tape apart, because it's not designed for anything more than 10 psi. And then you have your poly tube and your drip tape. Super simple, easy to put together.
And this is the order in which you install it. I'm going to just visit number 4 real quickly. This is an absolute must. I had a customer about 5 years ago come to me and insist she didn't need the drip or the pressure reducer. And then she came back 6 months later and complained that all of her drip tape had blown out. You absolutely have to have a 10 psi pressure reducer. It is you just do it.
Well, you think about the average household pressure is somewhere between 70 and 90 psi.
Yep,
Way
exactly.
too much pressure for that drip tape.
Yeah. All right. So start with your water supply. This is your spigot. It could be the incoming water into your irrigation valves. We're going to talk irrigation valves. You can also connect a pressure reducer right to the spigot and or right to the end of a hose, and so hose end or spigot, pressure reducer, and you can hook your drip tape right into that, can't you, Ray?
Yes, we have two different versions of the PSI reducer. One is a pipe thread that generally goes into an installed irrigation system. And the second is a hose end PSI reducer with a hose thread. Works beautifully. So
Cool.
if you're going to order, let us know which one you want. We can make that happen.
Perfect. So start with your water supply, then your timer. This happened to be the timer that I used at the urban farm. I think this was 4 zones. Oh, nope, 6 zones. So the way timers work is they split the on-off data. So you program the timer to tell it which zone you want turned on when. So if you just are hooking it up to a hose, your timer is you. You go out and you turn on your hose, let it water. If you're using a timer, and this is one of many different timers that you can get. This happened to be the one I used at the urban farm. Which one do you use, Ray?
I use an Orbit timer that I got from Amazon, and it has 3 zones on it.
Perfect.
It works beautifully.
Yeah, so
It's
this,
battery operated, and so it's not connected to electrical system.
right, exactly. That's real important. This one was battery operated. Actually, no, this one plugged in. Sorry. Um, Really, this is really helpful. And you can get these at any big box store or any plumbing supply house. All right. So we have, see these black wires. These are coming from the timer. This is the solenoid that turns the valve on and off from the timer. So the way this works is you have your valve, which is here circled in the middle, then the pressure reducer after the valve. We're going to cover this a little bit more. The water source is coming in from the bottom left. You can see I had a spigot there. Again, this was at the urban farm. Through the valve and then through the pressure reducer. The problem with putting the pressure reducer before the valve is that it often will mess with the valve's ability to run because it needs a certain amount of water pressure in order to work. All right, here's what the pressure reducer looks like. There is a thing with this, water flows one direction. It's hard to see.
Interestingly enough on that, when I originally put mine together, I didn't pay attention to the little arrow that is on the PSI reducer.
Uh-huh.
I tried to make it work and it turned on for about a second and a half and said, I'm done, I'm not going anymore. Had to take it off, turn it around. Now it works beautifully.
There you go. So make sure that you know that. All right. So the installation process. Number one, install valve timer pressure reducer. This could be install pressure reducer on a hose. So if you're not using a valve and a timer, it's water valve timer pressure reducer or water pressure reducer. Step two, and we're going to go over this more in depth. Step two is run the poly tubing to the destination. This could include 90-degree elbows and T's to split your drip tape system per bed. So if you have 3 beds, you run the poly tubing to the beds. You're going to see pictures of this here in a minute. You run your poly tubing to the beds, and then you run the drip tape in the beds themselves. You can do an optional on-off valves on the beds, on some beds if you want. And then you lay the poly tubing across the head of the garden bed, and then the drip tape runs out of the poly tubing the length of the bed. Again, you're going to see more pictures of this. You have anything to add there, Ray?
I do. I have mine split so that I have citrus on one section of the poly tube, and then on the other, I have my mulberries and orange trees and things like that. So definitely the on-off valve works beautifully for that. So
Nice.
I have 2,
What
one for
weight?
each direction.
What weight? You're doing fruit trees with drip tape?
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about that in a little while. All right. Once again, we got the wire to the timer, the valve, the water coming in from the source. You're going to install the timer, the valve, and then the pressure reducer. And you can use 5/8 or 1/2-inch poly tubing. And the poly tubing is bulky and very inexpensive to buy at hardware stores or big box stores.
Again, that's one of those things that we don't sell
Yeah,
because it just takes up far too much room for us.
yeah, exactly. All right, so the 5/8 poly tubing. This happens to be 5/8. You can also get half poly tubing. It's the stuff with the green stripe. So we have in this particular setup, we have water coming in from the garden hose. So we got a garden hose connector. We again would need a pressure reducer on it, and it travels to the T and goes to one garden bed or goes to the other garden bed. So that's how the optional on-off valves work. By the way, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the Q&A. We'll get to them in a bit. If you drop them in the chat, I may not catch them. All right. So I'm going to go back here. We got this bottom right, the poly tubing heading off toward a garden bed. When it gets to the garden bed and you lay it across the top of the garden bed, what you want to do is the simplest way. You can buy end caps for these, but the simplest way to do it is I just bend them and tie them with a piece of red wire. I like using red wire because you can always see it, right, Ray?
Yeah, I have done exactly the same thing and it works beautifully.
Yeah, that way you can see it. So this is how you secure the end of the poly tube. All right, this is a snapshot from a video that I'm going to play here just in a little while. So you have right here, you have the poly tubing coming into the garden bed, laying across the head of the garden bed. Here it's bent over to restrict water. If water drips out here, guess what? Put a plant there. And then the drip tape going down the length of the bed. And you'll notice the same red wire used to hold down the drip tape there.
The interesting thing about that is if you don't use the red wire to hold it in place, it will snake and it'll look like a snake.
Yeah,
Uh, it's weird. So I guess the sun heats it up and it moves.
yeah, exactly. And well, and when the water gets in it too, it kind of moves it a little bit. They also make metal U's that you can put right into the ground for
And they
that.
would rust.
Yeah. All right. Laying out your drip tape. You want to speak to this, Ray?
But you know, you actually, before you're laying out your drip tape, you're putting in your poly tube and you're going to determine your spacing for your barbs to then attach your drip tape to. One of
Ooh,
the most useful things that I have found is that punch tool because
yes.
it gives an absolute beautiful, perfectly round hole that your barb will go into and there will be no leak.
Yeah.
You know, it works better if the poly tube is warm. So if you do it on a sunny day, it works so much easier.
I'm circling with my arrow that the intersection between the drip tape and the poly tube. And Ray is right. This punch tool is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So what you do is you punch the poly tubing and then you press the drip barb right into it, right there. All right,
Excellent.
anything else there, Sir Ray?
No, that is exactly the way it works.
All
Beautiful
right,
job.
cool. All right, so this is what it looks like. You got your poly tube on the left, you got your poly to drip barb, and then you have your drip tape that slides in to the poly to drip barb. And it's kind of counterintuitive. It rather than screwing clockwise, it screws counterclockwise. So you slide the drip tape on and then you screw this and it cinches it down. Works so incredibly well.
How
Whoever,
do you tell to somebody who only knows a digital clock?
oh yeah, yeah, there you go. Right? Um, Whoever invented drip tape, they did an absolute brilliant job. It just works so well. Here's what it looks like with me doing it. That was back when I was at the urban farm. All right, so we have, as you're running the drip tape along the edge of your bed, now we have the other end of the drip tape from the poly tubing that we have to stop the water from running out the other end. Janice is in the house. How cool is that? She just dropped it in the chat. So we have two solutions for you. This is my favorite one. Janice and Ray like the other one. So I'm going to speak to this. It's really super simple. You cut a 3-inch slip of drip tape, and then you fold it once and fold it twice. So you get a cinch at the end. Technical term coming here. Top left, you scrunch the drip tape and you slide the 3-inch piece of drip tape over the scrunched drip tape. So you see it on the right. And that's what it looks like when you're done. and it works really well. Again, if it leaks a little bit, plant a plant there. Um, it's all low pressure. All right. All right, Ray and Janice are having a conversation in the chat. You guys know that nobody else can see it, right? You're not putting it out to everybody. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. All right. So then there is the drip end cap. Go, Ray.
Well, there's the expensive way, which is the drip end or the end cap, or there's the fold over way. The nice thing about the end cap is if you feel that there is some kind of detritus or something inside your line for some reason, you can always take off
Yeah.
the end that screws off, flush it out, and then put it back on. It's just a different feature, but they
Yeah.
both work equally as well.
Yeah. The first way, the fold over way, was the way I learned it. And then a while back we discovered we could get these. So we do carry these if you're interested. All right. So then when finalizing your system, what I do is I put a stake at the end of the bed, and literally in the past, Ray, I have used a stick, like a branch from a tree, that I pruned.
Mm-hmm.
You just stick it in the ground. You'll notice there at the bottom, the drip tape runs right up to it, and there's that red wire again, to kind of hold it in place from snaking. And voila, you have a drip tape system. All right, talk to me about these, Ray.
Oh my goodness. Every now and then something will happen. An animal will chew on your drip tape, or
You put
if
a
you're
pitchfork through it.
or
That was
yeah,
me.
something like that. Or yeah, even a shovel.
Right.
And so this repair coupling, you just cut that damaged portion off, put the repair coupling on, attach both ends to it, and you're back in business within minutes.
Yeah.
It works beautifully.
Yeah. Actually quicker than minutes, but yeah, it does. It works great. And I
I
think,
have used that as well.
yeah, perfect. All right. This is what a garden bed at Murray Farms. That's my mentor, Scott Murray, that turned me on to this stuff. This is a garden bed at Murray Farms. Oh, all right. I'm going to just kind of slide through these real quickly, Ray.
Yeah, this is Janice's orchard, as it were. She's running 6 lines. Yeah, 6 lines for 2 rows of trees and 5 grapevines, and they work beautifully. She has them on 2 different zones, so they're working well. And what she does is she'll run it for several hours one day, turn it off overnight, and then the next day, because she has more of a clay soil,
Yeah.
so that that second watering gets down further into the soil. It's better for the roots of the trees. She keeps it mostly covered with either green mulch or wood chips to protect it from the sun, because generally for me, I found that after several years, maybe 5 or 6 years, there's potential for the drip tape to get brittle. Have you found that, sir?
Um, when I was using it in Phoenix, I always used it on top. I didn't cover it with mulch because I'd like to see it. And I was getting 5 to 6 years out of it.
Right.
And mostly it was damage from just aging.
Or walking on it if
Oh,
you don't see it.
or putting a pitchfork through it, or yeah, exactly. All right, one more garden picture of Janice's. I believe that is
That
it.
is,
Oh,
that's
yeah. All right. So here's some garden beds at Murray Farms again. Murray Farms is over in Vista, California. And and Murray Farms is a commercial farm. And like I told you, he taught me about the drip tape. and I started using it. The first time, Ray, I don't know if you know this, the first few times we bought it to sell it was we were buying 5,000 linear feet rolls of it.
I remember that. Oh
Yeah.
boy.
Well, and that's pretty much still the way you have to buy drip tape is 5,000 linear foot rolls. And, you know, so if you only need 100 or 200 feet, you're kind of stuck.
Well, that we are selling them in 100-foot lengths,
Yeah.
so that's already taken care of.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we downsized it. Let's see what's all right. So there's the drip starter. We'll talk about that in a minute. What I want to do next, Ray, is I want to bring this video. So Jake Mace was a local garden guy over in Tempe, Arizona, and he's living in the Pacific Northwest, I think now, or in Vancouver, Canada, on an island. But he and I were great friends. He came, I don't know if you know this about him, he came to my class in like 2010 at Desert Botanical Gardens and showed me his dirt backyard and asked me what I thought he should do with it. And I said, put down 6 inches of woody mulch. And he came back a year and a half later and he'd put 2 to 3 feet of woody mulch in his backyard. And by the way, that's his backyard. That was his backyard now. It went from a dirt backyard to an amazing space, in big part because he put down so much woody mulch. Oh, you can't see. I haven't shared my screen yet, so you can't see his screen. Let's see his, there it is. All right, hold on. Actually, I need to make sure that I share. All right. You guys are going to have to tell me if you can hear it.
Nope, no sound.
No sound. All right. All right. There used to be a button on here. Yeah, working on it, John. Layout and options. Share sound. There we go. Hey, it's Greg Peterson from the Urban Farm coming to you from Longevity Gardens with Jake Mace. Welcome, Jake.
Welcome to my place.
Actually, you should welcome me, exactly.
Greg, we just did a video where we set up this raised bed and filled it with soil, the exact soil mix that I use.
Yep.
Folks can get the link to that in the description or comments below. But now, what are we doing?
Nice. So I get this question a lot. People want to know about drip tape. This is not drip irrigation. This is drip tape. This is what farmers use.
Okay.
And the cool thing about drip tape is that it's pressurized evenly throughout the system. The problem we get a lot with drip irrigation is that the pressure at the beginning of the system
is
different than the pressure at the end of the system. So
and usually at the end, it's a lot lower pressure.
Exactly.
And those plants don't get the water.
Right, exactly. So basically what we have here is we have our incoming 5/8 inch pipe.
And that comes from the grid. So this is after somebody's already got the water coming from the grid to their raised bed.
Exactly.
And you're now going to tie this pipe into a drip tape system.
Right, so we're just going to slip it on here. Now, interesting thing, this pipe gets really stiff. So if you're doing it and it's too hard to get it together,
Or if you're doing 100 of them at once.
or if you're doing 100 of them at once, exactly, go get a mug of hot water, boil water, and you can soak the end in hot water and it softens it up so nicely. Now we have the water coming in.
Okay.
We haven't sealed off the other end of this guy, so we have to seal off this other end. Now they sell attachments for the end pieces.
So you could hook up an attachment that will go to another bed.
Exactly, so you can just chain them on.
Or if this is the end of your system, you can cap it off.
And here's how I cap it off. It's really simple.
You just fold it.
I just fold it over.
I mean, those end caps can be expensive. They can add up if you're doing 100 of them. So
Exactly.
that'll save you hundreds of dollars.
Right. So one of the things that I use this pink wire, and this is just pink electrical wire, and I use it instead of
one of these.
one of these.
Well, these cost a lot of money.
They do.
These are, you can buy in a big roll.
Right, you just buy this by the roll. We'll actually have this cut as our pop-up nursery as well.
Oh, okay.
But here's the reason I use them. Put that in the ground next to it.
I know for a fact that over time that disappears.
That disappears, right. And the pink's never going to disappear.
So you can see it, so you can do adjustments and improvements.
Exactly.
And
So
fix it and stuff.
I've gone to using only this at the urban farm now. I've gotten rid of all the other wires and everything. So take that, wrap it around there real good for me.
Okay. Like this?
Yep, just
and this way?
twist it. Yep, twist it tight as you can.
Tight.
That works. There's really no wrong way to do it. And then kind of twirly it maybe. Yeah, there we
And
go.
just start making the pressure high, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You're good.
So this is what it looks like, Greg. It's like super flat, and it's not sticky like tape.
No.
It's just a flat piece of irrigation line.
They actually call it lay flat tape.
Okay, lay
And
flat tape.
what happens when it fills with water is it fills up to a tube.
Right.
And then every 8 inches, there, in this particular one, every 8 inches there's a hole.
Wow, okay.
And that hole
That's
lets
enough
water out.
to let the appropriate amount of water out.
Right, so it'll put, if you put it on for 20 or 30 minutes, it'll put a ring of water around your plant right there.
Nice.
This is really interesting the way the connectors work. So this connector is going to go into this pipe right here.
The regular 5/8.
The regular
poly
5/8,
lines.
exactly. We're going to take the drip tape and we're going to put it on there while this is open, and then we're going to kink it closed. And what it's doing is it's cinching over that drip tape
And locking it on.
and locking it on.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
It's pretty good.
Okay, so
Cool.
now we've got the first piece done.
Okay.
Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to attach it in here.
Which you could just take some sort of nail, but this is a much better tool for that.
Yeah, this is a $7 tool.
And this just pokes a hole. Like if you were going to torture somebody, you can like.
Don't even go there. It just pokes a hole in the pipe.
Okay.
There we go. And then we're going to work this in there. Again, a jar of hot water or a mug of hot water will help. Okay, so now we're going to go down to the other end here.
So the water comes through this main line.
Main line.
It will. Some of the water goes in this strip tape,
Yep.
and some of the water goes in this strip tape.
Exactly.
Greg, I know you, and I know that you like to garden economically.
Yes.
Which means on the cheap.
Yep.
But still effectively.
Absolutely.
So you figured out some ways to cut costs and keep the costs low with this, which is using a stick or a stake and a unique Greg Peterson urban farm method.
Yeah, well, actually,
So
I got
show
this
us.
from Scott Murray, so
Oh.
I won't claim this one. I've got this extra here. I'm going to cut it off with a few inches on the end. All right. Now, and we take an extra piece of this.
Okay.
I'll need about 4 inches.
Hold on to that.
Hold on to that. And all we're going to do is we're going to fold it once. We're going to fold it twice. You're going to open that up. And you're going to slide it over the end here.
So it just, you folded this part, now it just stuffs in there to keep it folded,
Yep.
basically.
There you go.
Let me,
You just slide it on.
Oh, that's cool. So that's
Yeah.
like totally like rustic,
There you go.
that's like an everyman's way of doing it,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And now no water will get through there.
Right. Yeah, so grab the stake now. All right, you're going to put the stake in the ground. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lash this and lash this
With these guys.
with those guys. So go ahead and...
I'll do this one, you do that one. How
All
about
right,
that?
cool.
And we just fold this up and just
Yep.
tie it around like
There
this,
you go,
right?
just like that.
I've been to your house, Greg, at the urban farm, and you've got all your garden grown with this method.
I do. This is what I love. So, and then the last thing we do, so we stake them at the end down here like this, okay? The stakes hold them taut, because, as they heat up, they'll expand and contract and like that, and this
Sure.
way they don't move down at the ends. And then I'll use my U-shaped wire, just like so.
To make it the shape you want it.
Yeah.
And now what you've done is you've taken this main line and you've tied it into my garden that
Right.
already has irrigation to it
Exactly.
for this video, so we can turn this on and it should work for the audience watching.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Oh, look at that. There it goes. It's working good.
Now
Yeah.
they're kind of like a tube,
Yep.
and the water
Yeah.
is just coming through, and now
Yeah.
the plants that we plant in this raised bed will find that water as they grow.
Exactly.
I like it.
And I found that they last for a very long time.
That's the thing, people always make you nervous, make you think that your irrigation is not going to last or it's going to get clogged, but you
Right.
found that this lasts and does not get clogged.
The batch in my front yard has been there for like 5 years and it's still going great. And the other thing is, because of the way they laser cut them, they don't clog. So when it pushes another batch of water through it, it clears out the hole, so the holes just don't clog.
Because sometimes some minerals can clog it up, but
Yeah.
you found that this doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen here.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So where can folks get drip tape if they're in the Phoenix area?
Well, you can get them at our pop-up nursery,
Which is
urbanfarm.org.
Okay.
And we'll be setting up bundles of drip tape, so it'll come with drip tape, it'll come with the wires, it'll come with the end pieces and the on-off valves.
So like a pre-thought out system.
The pre-thought out system.
That's great. Thanks for coming over.
Yep.
People are always concerned and have questions about how to irrigate their garden.
Yeah, and this is a great solution. All right, there we go.
You did an excellent job on that, sir.
Thank you. This is probably a 7-year-old video, and it says it, in 7.5 minutes, it just says it. So that's great. Donna says, yeah, that's pretty slick. Oh, yes, it is. All right, I want to jump in. We got a couple questions. If you got questions, please drop them in the Q&A. But I want to do one more share here real quick. Microsoft PowerPoint, share it. All right, so there's the Murray Farm drip tape. All right, here is our drip tape starter kit. I'm going to drop the URL into the chat box. You want to tell them about it, Ray?
I can do that. The nice thing about this is actually just a early part of the starter kit. It comes with 100 feet of the drip tape. It comes with 5 barbs, a PSI reducer, and a repair coupling. And that will generally get you started. And we do have a additional kit, which would be a deluxe kit. If you could give that next slide, sir.
There we go. The deluxe
There we
kit.
go. The deluxe kit is, to me, it's the ultimate, because in the basic kit you get 5 barbs. In the deluxe kit you get 10 barbs, which allows you to have 10 lines of drip tape. You also get 2 repair couplings. You get 2 on-off valves. The punch tool, I love that punch tool, it's so good.
Yeah.
And you get goof plugs, because inevitably somebody is going to puncture the poly tube, and then they're going to say, oh, darn, I didn't want it there, I want it somewhere else.
Right.
And so you can use one of these goof plugs, put it in that hole, it'll seal the hole, and then you can go ahead and move it to where you would like. This is a complete system. It has all of the adapters for the attaching the poly tube to the PSI reducer. It is just a complete kit. It is the way to go. And Janice came up with this idea. I don't know if she did that with collaboration with you or not, but I think she did a great job putting it all together.
She did a great job. Absolutely. If you're still on there, thank you, Miss Janice. All right. Oh, yeah, we got to talk about this. So if you don't have a whole house water filter to take chlorine out, you need these. You need these. They last a year. We have one that's hose ready, or one that goes in line. There's 5 components of healthy soil: dirt, airspace, water, organic matter, and everything that's alive in the soil. And Ray, what's the chlorine in the water for?
Oh, well, they put chlorine in the water to get rid of the bacteria, because as we drink it, we want purified water.
Exactly.
The problem is, we want those bacteria in the soil, so we want to remove the chlorine. And a whole house system, generally, at least in the Phoenix area, are salt systems and for soft water.
Yes.
This does not take out that salt, so be sure to have it on a separate line that does not have soft water.
So here's a quick story. About 8-10 years ago, I went and installed a garden for a friend of mine, a good friend of mine in Phoenix, and got everything planted and everything started growing. He was harvesting stuff before long. And that same day, I did one at my brother's house, and his seeds never came up. Same seeds, when obviously not the exact same seeds, but out of the same seed packets. And it turns out he was using soft water on his garden. Do not use softened water on your garden. That's a great big no-no. So yeah, you got to get that separate. If you have chlorinated water, we have these available. They work great. They last for about a year. We suggest changing out the cartridge about once a year. Get the chlorine out. And you really should put a whole house filter on your house. That's a better way to go. A whole house chlorine removing filter. I have one called the Big Blue that I was using in Phoenix. And for less than 250 bucks, I installed it myself. So anybody interested in that, you can shoot me an email, greg@urbanfarm.org, and say, tell me where I get a Big Blue. So, all right.
And you change that filter about what, every 6 months or so?
Yeah, on the Big Blue filter, I changed it about every 6 months. So store.urbanfarm.org, if you go there and type in drip tape or go to the general store tab, you can find all of that. And I think we're great to go with questions. You see the questions in the Q&A right there, Ray?
Let me see. Yes, I do, I think.
All right. We'll start at the top. Is Adria says, is there a different functionality between drip tape and quarter-inch drip tubing that drip irrigation companies sell? Yes, Adria, that is drip irrigation drip tubing. You do not use that with this system. Our system, the drip tape system, is a completely different system from drip irrigation. You want to take the anonymous attendee one there, the second one, Ray?
I'm not sure I'm seeing it.
Came in a little bit. Why do you suggest using a pressure relief valve? I think they mean the pressure reducer.
Well, the reason you use the pressure reducer valve is because the tape is designed to handle a maximum pressure of 10 psi. Otherwise, it can blow apart and you would be a very unhappy customer.
Yeah. Sue wants to know, can you leave the tape on all year round? I mean, you mean installed all year round? Absolutely. Like I said, Sue, mine would regularly last 5 years or longer if you cover it.
There.
So yeah, you can definitely leave it out. I left my drip tape here on my garden beds, Ray, throughout the winter.
I leave mine on all the time as well.
Well, it gets freezing here. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I found the Q&A. I was in the wrong place.
Oh, very good. All right, cool. You want to take Matthew's question?
Matthew, for trees, can you speak to the advantages or disadvantages of drip tape versus a poly tubing with built-in pressurized emitters?
Wow. I know that I use drip tape on my trees, and I run a 60-foot length of drip tape, and I do that with 4 different lengths of tape. The advantage of that is everything that we've been talking about, the even pressurization, the watering throughout the entire length.
Yeah.
And when you're using a 1/4-inch poly with emitters, generally they're going to run somewhere around half a gallon per hour.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on, I'm thinking the spaghetti with the drip emitter, you
Yeah,
can use that for going around in circles or snake it around, whereas you can't do that with drip tape.
yeah, that's true. However, Matthew, um, drip tape evenly distributes water through the entire system every 8 or 12 inches, depending on the distance between the emitters. Um, and so you get this even distribution of water. And if you're putting down woody mulch like the way we suggest, that's going to start making that into really nice, healthy soil pretty quickly. Leilani wants to know, how do we connect one bed to another? Basically, Leilani, we covered that in the video, but basically you run the poly tubing to one bed and then keep running it to the next bed. It's pretty,
Potentially with an on-off valve as well.
yeah, you can use the on-off valves as well. You can also, if you have other questions that we don't get completely answered tonight, shoot me an email, greg@urbanfarm.org. Any idea what the flow rate is on this, Ray?
On what?
On the drip tape
It's also half gallon per hour
per
per,
emitter?
yeah.
All right, there you go. Jamie Johnson says, how many lines for my new fruit trees? I would run one 6 inches off of each side of the trunk. Can't tell you how long to run it. Jamie says, how long should I run the water for? You have to make sure that you're getting a good deep water. Do you know how long Janice runs the
Yeah, she runs hers somewhere between 6 to 8 hours
at a time?
total. She'll do like 4 or 5 hours one day and then turn it off overnight, do the
There you
same
go.
thing the next day.
There you go. Um, you're going to have to figure out, if you have sandy soil, it's going to go through it faster. If you have clay soil, it's going to go through it slower. So you kind of have to get a sense of that for your fruit trees.
That's where a soil probe comes in handy because you
Yes.
know your soil.
Tell them about a soil probe real quickly, Ray.
Oh, a soil probe, it's like a dipstick for your oil in your car.
Oh, yeah, that's a good.
You wait until about an hour after you finish watering, you go out to the drip line of your tree. You lean on the pole and it goes in. When it hits dry soil, it will stop. And just like a dipstick, when you pull it out, you'll see how much mud there is. And that mud distance is how far you've watered down. If
Perfect.
you if you've gotten your 2 to 2.5 feet of water depth, you're good to go. And if you don't have it, you need to water a little bit more.
There you go. And that's for mature trees. 18 inches for your new trees are going to be good for the first year or so. All right, Dina says, drip tape holes up or down? Yes. I'll go into it more in a minute. Pam says, buried in mulch or on top of the soil? Yes. It's really up to you on both those. All right. Crystal says, can I hook the drip tape up to 1/4 inch irrigation line? No, that's not going to work because this is more like 1/2 inch pipe that you have to fill, so you're just not going to get it.
Yeah, the pressure in a 1/4 inch is not nearly enough to suffice for the drip tape.
My husband, Crystal says, my husband already installed 1/4 inch irrigation splitter heads all over our property. How can I use drip tape after those heads to properly water my plants? So they're probably connected at some point, Crystal, to a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch PVC
PVC.
pipe, you're going to have to tap into that because the 1/4 inch is just not going to work. Dina says, I have a 30-foot garden bed against my fence. However, I have a 3-foot walk that breaks the length. Can I do drip tape, then continue polytubing through the walk and continue the drip tape without interrupting the water? Yes. So what I'm doing here is I have I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I currently have 8 raised garden beds with woody mulch between them all. I'm digging a trench in the woody mulch and I'm putting the polytubing buried in the woody mulch and then surfacing it at the corner of each garden bed. So then I'll put 3 strips of drip tape into each of those gardens. So that's how I do it.
And I did the same thing because I put some under a walkway to my pool equipment.
Yep, there you go. All right. Any other last questions, crew? Did you see Janice's question there, Ray?
How much is the flow rate?
Yeah, the flow rate you said was a 1/2 gallon per hour. She wants
Correct.
clarification on what that means.
It means that the water coming out of the perforation in the hole, if you leave it on for an hour, it will fill a 1/2 gallon container.
I wonder if you have 600, because we have the same amount of water coming into 600 linear feet as we do 30 linear feet. That's going to reduce the amount coming out of the, yeah.
No, the pressure will remain the same.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of water coming out will be the same. You're just reducing the length, which will reduce the amount of water used.
Got it. All right, cool. How many feet come in the starter and deluxe kit? Those are 100-foot rolls in both of them.
Correct.
And then you can order additional 100-foot rolls.
Or any component that you need for the system.
Yeah. Can you use a normal T for the poly tubing to connect the drip tape? Nope. The T's go into the poly tubing. The poly to connector, poly to drip tape connector is how we connect those, Angela. All right. Carol wants to know, do you offer an installation service for a very small home garden? I inherited a drip system with PVC pipe. My 2 small raised beds will be on valve 4 and the incoming water source through PVC piping. How is it possible to connect poly tubing to PVC? Oh, that's pretty straight up. First of all, do you want a timer on there? If you want a timer, you go, there's actually, I don't know that I can explain it because I don't know your exact situation, but it's real doable. If you want to send me a photograph, Carol, I can tell you what you would need. And we may have somebody that can do installations for you, so let me know. Birdie says, next time I'd like to see a video on putting together water supply to timer and valve to pressure reducer. The picture looks difficult to do.
Oh, it's not difficult at all.
No, it's pretty straightforward, and yeah, we can probably do that. You want to answer the next question there, Ray?
That's the Janice, how do you, well, I moved. How do you make secure
Oh, sorry, that was my bad.
the end of the drip tape is fully secure on the barb? What
Yeah, if you don't get it all the way on.
Yeah, well, generally, if you don't get the barb all the way in, it has the potential to pop off, and you'll have a big puddle of where it's at. But using the punch tool is the perfect size for the barb. And the barb will go fully in and you wouldn't have to worry about anything.
Yeah. And then on the drip tape, same with the drip tape. If as long as you have it cinched down tight enough, you should be good. If it comes off, you just put it back on. All right, crew. Thank you for joining us. Beth says, do you worry about the lines freezing during the winter? I would say not. Mine were installed over winter here. They did not freeze. I had them on the other day and they were working just fine. So mentor Scott Murray told me that it's never a problem. So
Yeah, my thought on that is if it were pressurized, it would have moving water and it wouldn't freeze. And when it's not pressurized, the water is removed. Therefore, there's nothing to freeze and break.
yeah,
By the expansion.
exactly. Exactly. All right, crew, thanks for joining us. A bunch of you stuck with us till the very end. We thank you. Store.urbanfarm.org is where you find this stuff. You can always send me an email, greg@urbanfarm.org. That's what I'm here to help with. And yeah, thanks. And please buy our starter kits and supplies from us. That helps us continue to give courses like this, classes like this on a free basis. So we're getting a lot of clapping hands and love. So, all right. Thank you, Ray. I'll talk to you in the morning, buddy. Thank you, Janice,
Thank
for
you,
being
sir.
here.
Thank you, everybody, for coming by.
Bye, guys.